Thank you for the introduction. Amazing to see everybody. As mentioned, I'm Jim. I work at the Trade Desk. We're a software platform that helps brands access the best of the open internet, and I'm thrilled to be here with Kathleen.
And I'm Kathleen Hall. I run brand advertising, media, and research at Microsoft. I've been there about 15 years, but I still feel like I'm an outsider. And yeah, I'm happy to be here today to talk about sports marketing and anything else you want to talk about.
And I think we just founded the Irish in Advertising.
Yes, we did our family trees together, and we're definitely related.
So Kathleen, title Chief Brand Officer, it's fascinating. You just had your team together for an offsite in person, which is great. Who goes to that offsite? What functions are within your
Well, we had our first post-pandemic full team global team week. So we had them all come to Seattle, and it was super emotional. Like, it was, people love being together. There's people we've hired and never seen. One thing you can't tell over teams is how tall people are. Like, there's one woman I've been meeting with, she played at women's basketball, and I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. So it was really fun. The reception of just having good quality time together was amazing. And I think we were pretty smart about it. Our team that planned it had nothing to do with it. Where they planned a lot of social time, which you just need. You need people to like catch up and connect, and so much of our business is relationships, and you got to establish those to kind of, not really leverage them like it's a conscious thing, but that's what you do. You like, who can I call? Whose advice can I get? So it was really, really great. So the teams that come together are basically the ones I mentioned. So I have the brand team who does all of the brand strategy and brand image work for the company at the Microsoft level. And then the partnerships and sponsorships team, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about, they do all of our sort of relationship and partnership marketing, whether it's Special Olympics or NBA or NFL or women's tennis or La Liga and all the things that we do. So that team came together, and they're pretty globally dispersed. And then media, which is some in Seattle, some across the country. We're about 60% corporate now and 40% dispersed, which for me honestly has been good because the marketing disciplines, Seattle's kind of not it, really, I want New York, I want LA, I want other places. So it's really helped, I think, our hiring pool really, really well. So media, and then I have the creative team, and I have the research team, which is kind of unusual in my discipline, but it's probably my favorite child because no great creative or brand or anything else happens without research and insights. So those are my teams that came together.
That's a busy week.
It was a very busy week, and also we did not know at the time we scheduled it, because you have to schedule it so far in advance, that we were going to be in the Super Bowl. So I basically did like, disappearing act one day in because we had some issues editing, and I went down to LA, and so it was kind of crazy. It was poor planning if we had planned it, but we didn't plan it.
Well, we'll definitely talk about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it sounds like both the heart side of it as well as the science. And it seems like you gravitate a little to the science, but also you love creativity. You're working closely with your creative agencies. What do you like about both sides of that equation?
It's funny. I'm one of my few friends who graduated from college many years ago. We were talking about when I was in school in London during the Troubles, still happening in the UK, when there were still bombings. That's how old I am. But I've stayed in the same career since I graduated from college. And one of the reasons I think I love marketing so much in all its flavors and disciplines is the combination of art and science, right? The analytic with the gut. Like, it's not one or the other, and I think that's what kind of keeps me excited.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I know you've been with Microsoft now
15, I think I'm in my 16th year.
Congrats.
I'm not a free agent, in case it isn't. Only got students.
But even at the time of Microsoft, you've multiple product lines. Microsoft is now involved in everything from gaming to streaming to
See, that's the other thing I love about our discipline and industry is it's never the same thing. Like, one day you're in sportswear, and then you're doing banking, then you're doing packaged goods, and it's the same thing at Microsoft. When I went to be head of marketing for Windows, which at the time was the big dog. Windows was the heart and soul of the company, and it was heart and soul of the P&L as well. And all my friends in New York were like, you're out of your mind. It was the era of I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, when we were the fat guy. And they're like, why would you go there? I go, that's why I'm going there. Because there's goodness. When I went out here and I went out there and visited, I heard the stories, and I knew the values, and I could see that there was a ton of potential. So it was post-Vista.
Yeah.
So Windows Vista was a pretty big failure from a marketing perspective, but actually not such a bad product. So anyway, it was just an interesting dynamic. So the goal was bring Windows back. Was it Was it a bad album or does the band suck? Was basically what we had to figure out. And we tried to make sure it was a bad album. And so since then, through Windows, there's about a 70% overlap of perceptions of Windows and Microsoft. So as Windows would go the company, and we just tried to bring back the heart and soul. And it's funny because back to my point, research was at the crux of that. The first thing we did, one of my favorite things to do is, look, this is not really crazy stuff. Like I'm an English major, so it's not like I'm doing, complicated equations. Who loves your brand and why do they love it? Let's start with that. Okay. And so we went to the brand lovers and we found out, wow, there's a weird dichotomy in the brand. One, we're seen as this big, kind of strong foundation, trusted, trustworthy. And then the kind of other side of that, and the visual that came up a lot, we did a lot of visual exercises, was like mountains or giant buildings, big, strong. And then on the other side, one of the best visuals I love that somebody picked through a collage exercise was a box of butterflies. And basically that side of the brand to people was all about possibilities and attaining things, right? Especially globally. So that I'm like, wow, like as sort of like the artist side, like we're mountains with butterflies, like this, we're strong and we're opportunistic and possibility. So it was just a great combination. So based on that, we kind of built back the Windows brand. I think the first thing we did was apologize. Like Windows 7 was like, yeah, we got it wrong, yeah. And that campaign was Windows 7 was my idea, where we showed customers that we listened to them. And then, we kind of went on from there. And then after Windows 8, Bomber at the time was the CEO, came to me and said, they wanted to restructure, so we centralized a lot of this work, which was great because, when I first started at Windows, I'd say about 70% of the team was turned over, either by choice or by decision because they weren't marketers. Like I went to get Simmons at the company, and the head of research sent me a note saying, "What is Simmons?" And I was like, "Okay, we're in trouble, right?" And then Bomber, it's funny that I used the basketball analogy at the time, given he owns the Clippers now. About 6 weeks in, he met with me. He said, "How's it going?" And I go, "Steve, you want me to come here and build an NBA championship team, and basically here, if you can dribble, you're a marketer." I'm like, there's no skill. I want people who can high and low, picks, man. Nobody knows how to do anything. So we had to really rebuild the discipline or find the people within who were attracted to that. So, that was the first kind of rehab.
I love the thread, though, of taking that insight and bringing it alive with beautiful creative. I think you have to close the loop, though, on the Mac versus PC with bringing Justin back in those ads and how that campaign kind of got reinvigorated.
I didn't do that.
Oh, was you?
No, we didn't bring Justin back.
Oh, for just the flipping of the script of...
yeah. So I think Samsung brought Justin back.
Yeah, they brought him back, yeah.
I'm like, did I?
He's used a lot.
We did think of that, and we're like, yeah, don't go backwards. And also, being in the position, even though we're giant of a challenger, is a great thing. The challenger position is my favorite position because all the rules are off, right? You got to redefine. That's what we did. We basically said Apple had made this category about the shiny thing and the super cool people who use them, and like we're not cool, and we can't try to be cool. That's one of the
embrace it.
You have to embrace it. It's funny. I worked on the Keds business years and years and years ago. Remember when Dirty Dancing was out? I'm aging myself. And the Keds people were seeing some resurgence of sales. And they're like, oh, we need to do an athletic shoe because it was Nike, LA Gear, all these brands that have come out, some of them. And we're like, no, you don't want to be an athletic shoe. They're like, what are you talking about? Well, the whole movement of time was out of the excess of the 80s and wearing makeup when you exercise into back to basics of the 90s. And guess what Keds are for? For when you're doing nothing. You can throw them in your washing machine. So a lot of times, like the impetus is to chase what's going on, and you have to be true to what you are and find out how the truth of what you are intersects with where the world is going.
I love that. And I think another unique challenge you have at Microsoft is just the breadth of the portfolio. You mentioned a few of these, but everything from an Xbox to even LinkedIn and service.
Quantum computing.
Yeah. But a customer is a customer, and people are not one-dimensional. Your IT decision maker probably watches football and plays Xbox.
Right.
How do you think of just stringing that together as a one Microsoft brand?
See, that was the genius, I think, of where Steve wanted to go and then Satya embraced, which is, it's not about the silos, it's about the threads, right? What connects all these things? And how does that add up and accrue to the Microsoft brand? So what you said is exactly the point. One of the things I hate, having worked in a lot of companies and with a lot of companies who have both a commercial and consumer business, is their propensity to divide them. This is our commercial audience, this is our consumer audience. I'm like, no, they're all one audience. Like when you're on the NFL You know, one of the biggest responses we got to the Xbox adaptive controller spot on the Super Bowl was enterprise customers calling for sales calls because they loved our statement of values. Like that's what.
And that wasn't even the intended audience.
Right.
It hit that group.
Right.
And really resonated.
Right. It's about humanity. I would say the same thing with a lot of the surface work. Like, are we going to be the #1 share of people? No, but we stand for something, and it makes people understand what the vision is of what's possible in PCs.
Yeah.
It serves a bigger purpose. That's the hardest thing, though, as many of you who are marketers here know, it is to prove, because it's kind of that ancillary value of things. It's not the immediate sales P&L. It's what's the brand benefit of some of these things and the long-term accrued value, which is so hard to prove, even though I try to do it through research all the time. That's the tough thing to prove these days and get people to stick with.
Yeah.
You know?
And
the equity.
And doing that with stories. And I think Microsoft does such a good job with that. Many campaign examples. I was going to ask you if you had a favorite campaign, but there's some big news.
I do have a favorite campaign, and it would be this week's.
Okay.
It's all about the stories. I think my favorite campaign ever, being a New Yorker, being a girl from the Bronx, we were talking about this a little bit. My dad was a cop, my mother was a nurse. They met in the emergency room. We could write a pilot based on my family. I think they already did. It was Blue Bloods. Anyway, except I broke the mold because I was supposed to be the lawyer, right? I was supposed to be Bridget Moynihan. Broke my dad's heart. Went into advertising, and he's like, "What? You're making $10,000 a year working in New York City?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." But wait. So then ironically, my dad was the season ticket holder for the New York Giants, and he didn't get picked in the lottery when the Giants finally went to the Super Bowl with the Broncos back in ages ago. So he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, anything you can do?" And I'm like, "Dad, I'll hook you up." 2 o'clock in the morning, he calls me, "I guess it's okay you didn't go to law school after all. This is fucking amazing. I'm gonna feel sick."
You got your redemption.
I'm like, "Have you met my daughter in advertising?" So he got over it. Anyway, I digress. On the Blue Bloods thing got me going. What was I talking about? Oh, my favorite campaign. So being a New Yorker, we did a holiday campaign called Peace on Fifth. I don't know if you remember this, but we have a store on Fifth Avenue, and Apple has a store that used to be the FAO Schwartz store on Fifth Avenue. And the idea was basically, there's a lot of bullshit going on in the world, and holidays is the time for peace, right? So let's make peace with our competition. So we had employees audition to sing, and we had real employees come and march down Fifth Avenue to the Apple store live. These were, the degree of difficulty was like, these were all live cameras, we had no video village, we only could do one take. We had to teach people to sing this song. We had the Harlem Children's Choir singing with our people, and the Apple employees came out as a surprise. And we got it all. We shot it. And the really interesting thing was it was the day after, so a Thursday night was the Paris attacks. I don't know if you remember that. So all of our permits got pulled in New York City. This is where being an Irish girl from the Bronx pays off. And I got a lot of cousins. I'm like, you're at the mayor's office. Hey, they pulled our permit. What can you do? Who do I call? What do I do? So they ended up giving us a 4-foot swath on the sidewalk that we could use to shoot the spot. And we could have no boom cameras. So we were going to have cranes and boom. We couldn't have any of it. So we ended up making that spot. So it's one of my favorite. I think combined with it was New York, the degree of difficulty, the beautiful song that they were Peace on Earth.
You have some talented employees that can sing. I would not be volunteering.
Let me tell you something. We put out an APB. It was a week, and we said, send a video, sing the song. And we had a hard time picking 40 people. There was so much talent. It was amazing. Yeah, so that was probably my favorite of all.
Okay. Well, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the news this week. Microsoft's coming back to the Super Bowl after a hiatus. While we pull up the ad here in a minute, can you just tell us a little bit how that campaign came to fruition? I know this moved pretty quickly.
Yes.
And a little hush-hush. So
we were just commiserating that one of the headlines in Creativity Magazine was Microsoft's last-minute Super Bowl spot. And then PR called me and said, did you lead with this? I'm like, yes, I led with, this is the last minute.
We were rushed.
Yeah, actually the question they asked was, did we negotiate the price? I'm like, well, when you're one of the last ones in, you don't have a lot of leverage, and that became last-minute Super Bowl spot. Anyway, how this came about. So we've been working for a while, probably last April or May, on how do we express our position in AI. And one of the key things we've been doing, again, going back to that research team, is keeping tabs on the social conversations. We have a great technique now where I can literally visualize the social conversation volumes and the heat map of positive and negative and what the subjects are. So like, AI and creativity, and AI and copyright, and AI and job replacement, and AI and opportunity, and all these things. And what we've seen, we started to see over time, was the negativity was kind of going down and the optimism was coming up. And we're like, oh, this is interesting. And particularly around creativity, there's a lot of opportunity. So we were starting to think about who should we talk to, because we always start with that, and what should we say. And we were looking at this audience of, I would call them AI optimists, people who are starting to get excited about what it is and what it does in the general population. And working on messaging and opportunity. No real budget, no real ground, work happening internally. And then all of a sudden, I would say in the fall, the appetite just exploded, which happens a lot. Like you always have to get ahead. If we ever waited for everybody else to figure out where we need to go next, we'd be behind all the time. So I would say it was by fall there was an appetite as Copilot, the product, was forming in its new instantiation, which is very kind of consumer friendly. It's free. It's open.
Yeah.
The planets started aligning, and we're like, okay, we're going to do this. So for me, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
The degree of difficulty of launching a product that is about AI in the Super Bowl, because Super Bowl, the magic formula needs to be, you got to have a high level of entertainment value, right, or emotional, which we've had. And I was worried that it's a heavy, heavy, heavy load to carry to do that in the Super Bowl. So I think we managed to find some balance and create a little bit of a North Star for the company and a statement about who we are and what we believe in this space.
It's fascinating to hear just the backdrop. We'll see the minute-long spot, but knowing how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into that, kudos to you.
So much more you don't know. Yeah, that song is going to get in your head. Yeah.
Who's that?
It's the Phantoms.
Okay.
It's a kind of cool indie band. My son picked the music for the spot. You're really impressed with this. Yeah, my son and daughter chip in a lot because they hear me working all the time. So he actually came through for us in the end. Yeah, it was amazing. He got a horse out of it.
Okay, he didn't get to go to the game. No.
He didn't come out. He's a teacher. He's got to work. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, amazing spot. Obviously, really long-standing partnership that Microsoft has had with the NFL. This being one small component of it, but we're here talking sports marketing. Can you just explain what Microsoft does with the NFL and how robust that integration is?
Yeah, we do a lot. I mean, it's been a really deep and meaningful relationship. In my opinion, I try to be somewhat objective because I actually didn't initiate the initial relationship. I think it's probably one of the best in sports marketing, and that's because we both get so much out of it. Like, great partnerships are literally partnerships. What do you get? What do we get? And does it benefit both of us? For me, the visibility of the sideline experience, where you see the surface, kind of big blue boxes, and you see the referees looking into the surface viewer and all that kind of stuff. The exposure is phenomenal. So even in years when I don't have a big media budget, I'm in the NFL, and even the bad stuff when Parcells is throwing stuff or Belichick or I mix those up all the time.
Yeah.
They're two, as a Giant fan, they're all the same thing. So anyway, it doesn't matter good or bad. It's kind of interesting, the exposure and the value. I mean, you see these guys. Watch Mahomes. I mean, he sits down. He's looking at the surface on the sidelines. It adds value to the players and to the game. So it's been a real win-win. And then, as you know, kind of promotionally, we've carried that relationship beyond just the sidelines. We did. Oh my God, I'm getting what's his name's first spot? Russell Wilson's first spot. He did a spot for Surface. And then we did the Cupcake guys, two players from the Titans who retired and started a cupcake business. We made a Surface spot out of that. And then, Katie Sowers, who was the first gay female coach to coach in the Super Bowl. We did that spot, and the NFL didn't even know that story existed. We're like, okay, heads up. She's pretty cool. So things like that, I think we've helped each other in a very significant way.
Yeah, and tying it back, the customer, whether it's an Xbox or cloud user, who's
the breadth
everywhere across there. NFL is obviously huge. Talk a little bit about what else you're doing, especially as a global company, to utilize sports in that medium.
Yeah, and the only thing I would close on in the NFL, I think most of us know this as marketers, is in the absence of big communal viewing of any dramas or comedies anymore, sports is it, and NFL's the biggest of those. It's the one thing, because someone said, why do you do the Super Bowl anymore? It's so expensive. I said, it's the one time everybody comes together.
Yeah.
The reach is there, the immediacy is there, the attentiveness is there. That's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the water cooler.
And Who Shot JR is way gone. MASH's final, I'm dating myself again.
Yeah.
Kids in the room are like, who's JR? Anyway, those big seminal things don't really happen anymore because everyone's viewing on their own when they get to it. I'm watching Yellowstone when you probably finished it or whatever.
Outside the NFL, though, I know La Liga is
so broader things. So one of the things we make sure we do is we need to have a global portfolio. The NFL is very despite the fact that it has a lot of international viewership and fans, it's more US based. So we need to round that out. We also look to round out our audience appeal. So, more females, and part of our, we do a partnership with WTA and the WNBA. We do the NFL, we do La Liga, we do, what am I forgetting, Alpine, what now is mouthing to me? Oh, to the surf, yeah. US or WTA? Yeah, surfing. Whatever that acronym is that I don't remember.
Fair enough.
World Surf League? World Surf League? Yeah, World Surf
WSL.
League.
WSL.
There you go.
There's no surf in that in my brain.
Fair enough. And we could be remiss to not at least talk a little bit about AI as we wrap up here. We just watched a commercial for it. Maybe for those in the audience that are listening in, how to get started? Because AI can be complex. You mentioned we're starting to see positivity. What's like step one as a business, as a marketer, or even just a human?
Yeah.
To engage with AI?
So I'm going to go back one first.
Sure.
Because I'm going to tell you what ties all those kind of different sponsorships that we do.
Yeah, please.
Basically, we have a pretty pat formula on what we do and why we do it. Number one, there has to be product truth in the relationship. So we have to provide some really significant technology to the partnership. So, WNBA or NBA, we created the app. Like we do that work with them. La Liga, we do a bunch of fan participation and stats for performance and view. So it's like enhance the viewership, enhance the performance, make it better for the league in terms of marketing or engagement, or kind of the formula that we look for. So that's true across all of those, and it's been great for us. Okay, Now shifting gears.
We got to talk AI.
Okay, AI. I'm so sick of the acronym. I wish we could change it, but we tried and we couldn't. So here's the deal. It is not what you think AI is. And it's funny, culturally, it's different across different cultures. In Japan, for example, they don't view AI as a scary robot who's going to kill you in your sleep. They view it as like Rosie from the Jetsons, who's going to help you. They see it as a helper. It's so funny how culturally we have this, I think, movie-induced kind of innate fear. So what I would say is copilot.microsoft.com is a URL. It's free. Anybody can go, and you prompt whatever you want to prompt. Like you just say, hey, I need to create a flyer for my kids, whatever. Here, I'd like it to be, red and gold and blah, 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 and it will spit out options for you.
Yeah. It's a cheat code for those that are not actually creative. Because I use it for images, and it's fantastic.
It's pretty, I tell people, I did my team's reviews this year, and what I did was I generated an image for each of them that I thought represented.
Oh, at least you didn't have AI write the reviews.
No, I read the reviews.
Yeah.
Next year. I'm sorry. So I basically, and I actually had instances where like one of my employees cried because I did a visual of a beautiful kind of mythical woman plowing a field at night with nuggets of gold popping up in the field, and it made this beautiful image. And when she read it and saw it, she said, I literally started crying because she said it's so lonely what I do, and for you to recognize that there's these nuggets. So anyway, it's super meaningful. I don't know if you saw our holiday spot, our holiday campaign, where we just talked to people on the street and said, describe a holiday memory, and then we created a
10 seconds, that image comes up.
People, the guy, I hate that fish. Remember, I hate the holidays, but I love that fish. It was my favorite line. So anyway, it's easy, it's visceral, and then there's the app, the Copilot app in either App Store, Google Play, or Apple. It's free, download it, and start doing stuff. What I think is important is it's not going to replace what you do, it enhances what you do. So like, help me figure out a way to say blah in the number of characters I need to post somewhere. Or take this when you have it for work, which some people might not yet. Like, summarize what happened in the meeting.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, it's just little tiny things. Go to my LinkedIn, and Jeremy Miller, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Dentsu, replied to my post with something Copilot wrote. And it's kind of hysterical because he's from Dentsu, it's written in kind of a proper form, and it says you faced a lot of adversity with grace and something else, which is absolutely hysterical because the word grace and Kathleen are never used in the same sentence. So it's really funny, but it's just, it's fun, it's helpful. I did another one. I'm in a meeting live and someone's bitching about the fact we're in the fourth quarter. So I said, hey Copilot, tell me the ratings by quarter for the last 10 Super Bowls, create a table. It spit out right on my right-hand side, here's a table, and guess what? Fourth quarter in 9 out of the 10 last Super Bowls was the highest rated. So boom, cut, paste it, dropped it in Teams and said, there. So that's what you can do. Yeah.
And all of that is human plus AI.
Yeah, it's just the shit you used to do. Like when I first started, I had 32 spot markets and 82 day parts and blah, 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 and you had to type all these,
Yep.
and then came Excel. Well, now I can say to Excel, hey, take my top 10, day parts by blah, 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 and tell me what's most efficient. Okay.
Make life easier.
Yeah, I don't have to, do all the inputting and then, yeah.
Well, I'm feeling very optimistic on AI, so thank you for that.
And I make no commission.
About a time, or do we have time for one question?
I think we're out of time.
Okay.
And we
Unless there's one quick one. Is there a quick one?
true Irish fashion.
Oh,
Okay,
fast
quick one.
hand up. It's gonna be a hard.
AI generated question.
Just, I remember going back to kind of 2012, being a loved brand was an important element and an impetus for the deal as a KPI. Have you watched how that has transformed with this NFL and some of the other influencer partnerships
Yep.
to ascribe to not just Surface brand, but the Microsoft parent corporation brand?
Yes, it is still one of the primary metrics we look at for all marketing activities we do, including partnerships. I just wish our financial team cared as much about it as I did. Because the big analysis we've done, and we're getting close, is what's the value of brand love? And we found through analysis there's 4 main categories of value. 1, I'm more likely to try new things. 2, I'm willing to pay a premium. I'm willing to pay more if I like you. 3, when the going gets tough, I will stick with you. And I can't remember what 4 is, but those 3 are really important. So we actually have an equation now that basically shows the lifetime value of brand love. Do they care? I don't know, but we're trying. Look, fundamentally, this is where the art and science thing. There's only what makes you love your wife or your husband or your, I don't know, it's chemistry, it's not analytical. You can break down some of it, but not all of it, It's hard.
Great.
But yes, brand love is a big part of our focus. Okay.
Kathleen,
Thank you
it's
so
been
much.
awesome. We'll do another 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you.